time to try a new ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream, ice cream.
Parasocial.
Unus Annus, Unus Annus.
Hi, I'm Alex.
And I'm Nick.
And this is Ice Cream Parasocial, the podcast that talks about as many unuses as there are flavors of anus.
It's beautiful. It's perfect.
We did it. We made it.
Um,
The podcast that talks about as many topics as there are flavors of ice cream. If this is your first time, just so you know.
What if our entire podcast was about the lore of Unus Annus, and it started like the day after Unus Annus ended?
We just like kind of go back and edit the other episodes to like have little ARG shit in them. Just
Oh my god. So if you don't know what Unus Annus is / was,
rip.
rip.
Memento Mori.
Memento Mori. It was started by YouTubers Markiplier and Crank Gameplays, Mark Fischbach, Ethan Nestor, and the entire premise of it was that they would upload a video every single day for a year. And as of the day of recording this, yesterday was the final day. They did a 12-hour live stream and deleted the whole channel.
Yes.
Which is fucking crazy.
Which was sort of the point which was the entire point from the beginning, basically. It was to, like, upload a video every day, and then delete the channel, and that was, like, kind of clear from the inception.
Yeah.
It was a very unique idea, because people have definitely done stuff before where it's just like, yeah, I want to try and do this thing every day for a year. But to do something, to be like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing every day for a year and then destroy all of it.
Right. And it was so wild that it's just like, we couldn't not talk about it because for the last year, it's been a huge part of our lives. Mm-hmm. You know, we watched every single episode almost. I think that there were a couple where I was just like, I can't. Guys, I love you and I want to take part in this, but I'm not watching you make cheese. Okay? Okay?
I think we kind of tended to watch the ones that the other person didn't. So I think, like, collectively we watched all of them. Yeah,
and we were there for most of the live stream. We missed a little bit of the first bit because you needed to go grocery shopping, and I had to get it all set up. But, like, we were there that whole time, and it was so fucking wild. Yeah. Because it's like, they weren't dying, but it felt so much like they were, and it was just the end of this era, and it really felt like not only the end of this wild ass year that they happened to do it in, right, but also the beginning of, like, new stuff, kind of like the death card and tarot. Like, that's just what that all of yesterday felt like, was just that meaning of, like, you know, it's more about new beginnings and, like, the death of, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that, like, terrible things are happening. It's just like, yeah, it sucks that the channel is gone, but what the videos did over the last year and what those guys did over this last year, it was so incredible. Yeah. Like, I think very special. Yeah. Like, I genuinely think that if not for watching those videos every day and not hearing that message of, you know, the clock is always ticking and you've only got so much time, I don't know that I would have actually started the podcast ever. Right.
Like, it really gets in your head after a certain point. Yeah. You know? And, like, if you hadn't picked up on it already, if you weren't there for it too, one of the big messaging things was about death and basically like, you know, life and death. One of the big things with the channel was like Memento Mori, which like one of the major translations for that is like, remember you will die.
Yeah, and Unus Annus is Latin for 1 year, and so that was the whole, they had 1 year to do the best that they could, and like, it was really inspiring and powerful to watch, and especially like super inspiring and powerful to watch the live stream yesterday of them talking about the last year and talking about everything, and you know, with COVID and the craziness that this year has been, of just like showing how when you're passionate about something, you'll find a way.
Yeah. And like just the fact that this year has been such a shit show, and still managing to find ways to like make something that, you know, maybe like not every single day, but like that would come out every single day. Like sometimes they film more than one video in a day, but you know.
Right.
And during quarantine, you know, one of the last videos that they filmed was talking about kind of video ideas that never got to happen that they had. And it's really interesting because part of me was really glad that some of them didn't get to happen.
Right.
Because some of the ideas would involve like different like celebrities and stuff like that, and like different like major people on YouTube, or like going these like fantastic like places and everything. But there was this whole section in the middle of the year where it was just like quarantine and getting like stuck apart from each other and like in their own houses, and then like an even longer section where it was just like the two of them and Mark's girlfriend Amy, who was wonderful and like basically like the third.
Yeah,
like, she's like the backbone of the whole thing. But like a lot of it too is happening just like the two of them just in Mark's house, like being pretty much the only two people that they saw, or the only like three people.
Yeah.
Like that everybody was around, you know. And having to work with that instead. And I feel like that worked so well with like kind of the message of the channel and the spirit of the channel of just like trying to work with the time that you have and only having so much time, and still finding like interesting things to do and like some way to, you know, because some of my favorite videos are ones that happen like during quarantine.
Yeah.
And like during that time period where it's just like, well, all right, this probably would have been a time when we would have done something with like, I don't know, with like a major celebrity or whatever, but instead I kind of remember being in marching band, so I'm gonna teach you how to be in a marching band in my backyard. And it's just this like really goofy kind of thing where it's just like, I don't know, it was really heartwarming and inspiring to just see somebody like not even make something necessarily, but even just find a way to like have fun with your friends like for so much of the year.
Yeah, and it really, obviously this is still a thing that I struggle with, and it's still a thing that I'm working on, but it really helped me learn how bad of a problem I have with wanting what I do to be absolutely perfect.
Same.
Or it's not worth it.
Same.
You know, if you didn't get to see any of Unus Annus, first of all, I'm sorry. Second of all, it's so wild to talk about Unus Annus because it's so hard to not talk about it in a very serious way. But all of the videos were fucking wild.
Right.
The first video they cooked with sex toys.
One of the last videos they also cooked with sex toys again.
Right. There was a video where they just went through all of their props. They did a video about the trolley problem and like made it super weird.
They did a video where they looked at that website that archives celebrity feet and found their feet and their friends' feet.
Yeah, and like my favorite video was literally just called "Ethan Will Be Kicked in the Balls."
And you would watch that when you were sad all the time.
Yeah, and it's just they played nutball. Like, it was just, you know.
Which, for the uninitiated,
Yeah.
could you explain what nutball is?
Oh, so when you have nuts, like two people that both have nuts,
Two nutted individuals.
two benutted individuals will sit directly across from each other, legs spread, and then they will take some sort of ball or bottle,
Beyblade.
watermelon,
God.
what else did they use? There was something
It
else.
was like something with like a taser.
Oh, the taser was a joke.
Oh,
They
the
didn't
taser
actually
was a
do
joke.
it,
That's
but
right.
like,
I remember the title.
yeah. But yeah, so you take something that would hurt if it were to ram into your nuts. And then they would just, you roll it back and forth and try to hit the other one in the nuts.
And you can't block.
And you can't block. You have to just
Let it
let
happen.
it hit you.
The name is Pain.
The name is pain. And that was another like really big theme of Unus Annus, was like dealing with pain.
It was Pain.
They got pepper sprayed, which was fucking wild. And oh my god, during the live stream,
Oh my God,
I
yeah.
thought that Mark was gonna go off for a second, and he kind of did. He went off for like 1 second about like
Right.
when they were talking about the fact that they got pepper sprayed, and how fucking painful it was, and how awful it was, and like, you know, it was the worst pain that either one of them have ever felt. And that's why it makes him so fucking mad when police are going through protesters just fucking spraying them willy-nilly.
Right.
And I was just like, oh!
Because literally, like, you watched the video and it was just like, Jesus Christ, dude, you know?
Right.
Because they went to basically like a professional place where they do stuff like that and like train people on,
Yeah.
like using.
Yeah.
It's like a bodyguard training place, I
Yeah.
think, something like that. And they both got pepper sprayed, and like pretty much every time that something else painful would happen, they'd be like, yeah, it's not as bad as getting pepper sprayed.
Yeah, I mean, Mark broke his nose twice in a week, and he was saying that that wasn't as bad as getting pepper sprayed.
Yeah,
And-
literally.
You breaking your nose
Like-
twice in a week? That has to
Good Lord.
fucking hurt, dude. Anyways, back to my original point. I have a really, really bad problem with needing things to be perfect, or it's
yeah.
not worth it.
I forgot.
And that's a lot of why it took me so long to actually start any sort of podcast. I've wanted to do podcasting for years. I've wanted to make
We've
videos.
talked about this for so long.
Yeah, like I've wanted to be a content creator of some sort since I was in my young teens. And, you know, I started to go to college for filmmaking. Like, this is my passion. This is what I love. And that passion that I have in me isn't enough usually to like override my, well, it needs to be perfect, it needs to be filmed on and recorded on these this really high-end equipment, and it has to be perfect, it has to be perfectly edited, I need to learn every single thing. And like, if the first thing that I put out isn't as good as somebody that has been doing this for
If it's not
15
as good
years
as my favorite YouTuber right now.
Right. I'm just like, if I don't put out a YouTube video that isn't the same quality as a big budget movie, then it's just not fucking worth it. And it's like,
Yeah.
no. And,
Right.
you know, there's a logical part of my brain that understands that that's obscene, that
Totally.
understands that that's not how it fucking works, dude.
Right.
And watching them go through and do that and have some videos that were clearly just like, I'm exhausted, you're exhausted, but we've got this passion, we've got this project, and like, just fucking, here's a video.
Right.
And it was good enough.
Exactly.
And that's really, really helped me actually be able to get some stuff done. You know, like, there's a lot of episodes of this podcast that
both of us were sick.
Yeah, and like, if I hadn't been able to begin adopting that mentality of it's good enough,
right,
or something is better than nothing, it wouldn't have come out.
Exactly.
Last week's episode would never have come out.
Right.
You know, I didn't do all of the editing that I usually do, but I decided to let that be part of the bit, that I was stressed out and I was fucking tired and I didn't want to do it. So sorry that the last episode didn't sound as good, you know?
Yeah.
But if I had let that idea of it has to be perfect or it's not worth it was there, that episode wouldn't have come out. So many of these episodes just wouldn't have come out.
Exactly.
Ever.
Yeah.
You know? And that's still something that I'm trying to work on in video form, which is so funny because, like, I'm pretty over it with the podcast because we've been doing it for a minute. But every time that I try something new, if I'm not perfect from the get, then it's not worth it.
Right.
And that's not true.
Yeah.
It's like, you have to do things to learn them. But that was something that Unus Annus really, really helped me start the process of learning, because it was just like, they were just having fun, you know.
Exactly.
Granted, their situation is different because they had a team of editors, they had, you know, people that were helping them come up with ideas and blah, 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 you know. But they also edited videos. They also came up with ideas. You know, they had to film them, and they had to come up with, you know, the overarching theme and, like, how things would happen, and
right,
you know, and kind of just accept that some days weren't gonna be 100%.
exactly.
And that was a lot of what they talked about during the live stream yesterday, was just like, yeah, there were some days that fucking whatever, man. But like, we did it and we were there, and like, I don't have any regrets of doing it. I'm just like, man.
Exactly. Like, it reminds me a lot of, I don't know, like, the concept of, in mindfulness, in DBT, at least, there's an element of it that's kind of like a, gosh, I forget if it's a what. Oh yeah, it's a what and then a how. Because there's different things when talking about mindfulness. It's like what you do and how you do it. And one of them is participation. And I think that's one that I never would have like associated with mindfulness until I started working in a DBT program and learning more about it. Because, you know, you think about mindfulness and you think about meditation and just like sitting in a room forever and just kind of like staring off into space and trying to clear your head of thoughts, etc. But something that I'd kind of started thinking about after working where I do, and then like Unus Annus really kind of, I don't know, makes me think about a lot, because it feels very in the spirit of the channel, is like the participation element. And one of the like how things is being non-judgmental.
Right.
Because participation is like antithetical to not being in the moment, you know? Because when you're participating, then you're like actively trying to shut out like judgment and actively trying to shut out like, yeah, you know, like isolation and kind of, the sort of like, goodness, what is it called? Self-consciousness. Yes. And I feel like so much about Unus Annus was just like an exercise in mindfulness in the wildest way possible, in like the most active kind of participatory fashion. And just this sort of like, all right, we committed to this thing and we're going to do this thing and we have to live in the moment because this moment is really all we have. So we're going to go cook with sex toys and I'm going to go film you trying to do accents and stuff. And like, you know, we're going to try and find Atlantis on Google Maps and just like doing all of this like wild shit. Where it's just like, I feel like if most people had kind of taken a moment with one of those video ideas and you didn't have like the clock ticking on it, then it'd be so easy to like talk yourself out of it and just be like, no, I don't want to do it, like, you know, and trying to like pull yourself out of that participation mindset. But I don't know, it's just so cool to kind of see people throw themselves into the moment so hard. And I feel like that's also had a really big impact on me this year as well. It's just been like, I've changed my like career aspirations a lot.
Yeah.
And like kind of the way that I view myself and like, you know, also making this podcast and everything as well. And it's so funny because, you know, I can't necessarily attribute everything, but like, I think that it definitely has helped a lot having this constant thing that I'm watching like every day, being like, yeah, we only have so much time. We only have so much time. You gotta like do stuff that you want to do because like the clock is running out, you know? And because I've like changed my kind of career aspirations a lot this year and everything too, you know, and given myself sort of a little bit of a pause on school for a term, and I'm trying to head back, but you know, giving myself some like space to just try and like participate in things instead of just kind of thinking, oh well, I guess this is the thing that I have to do because it's what makes sense because I'm already kind of doing this and this is the way that I've done this and this is the skill set that I currently possess, so I guess I have to do it, you know. And just kind of having something to look at where it's just like, these bozo
right,
just doing all this wild stuff to this kind of like level of success where it feels like the ultimate kind of, there's gonna be an audience for whatever you put out there, just so long as you're enjoying yourself. Because like, yeah, both of these people had like some level of a following, like Markiplier, obviously.
You
but
know,
like,
he's just
I don't
like
think
a little YouTuber. Just got like
small
a couple,
YouTuber.
Just a couple 100,000 people.
Just a couple 100,000 people. But I don't think Ethan even was at 1 million followers.
No, Unus Annus hit 1 million before his channel did.
Yeah, I
Which
remember
is
that
so
being a
funny.
whole thing, which is very funny.
Why are you following Unus Annus and not Ethan?
I know, poor dude. But like, you know, having this thing totally pop off when the videos are such wildly different topics and can be just literally anything. Like some of the videos are them just like fucking around for like 8 minutes and the video title will be something like, this video will make no sense.
This video will never make any sense.
Never make any sense, you know. And it's just like, it feels like the epitome of just like, there's got to be an audience for whatever you want to put out there. And I feel like that gave me a lot of confidence to start doing this and really let that be an avenue for something that felt like a real possibility to at least look into, even as like a hobby, hopefully more than a hobby, because I was another person where like when I was younger, when I was 18, I was trying to go to school for like film, you know. I really wanted to get into this shit, but then I just sort of assumed like, oh, that's not realistic at all, and ended up just dropping out of school instead and being like, yeah, I guess I'm going to be in the restaurant industry. And then it was like, oh, I'm going to go into healthcare, I guess. That seems stable, whatever. And I'm good at it, you know. But then when it comes to being in healthcare, the thing that I feel like I'm the best at in mental health is honestly making people laugh.
Yeah.
Which is so funny because I think about getting out of the field that I'm in and being like, oh, well, like, what if I can't, like, I don't know, like, it feels weird to take that away from people, but then it's like, honestly, I feel like the moments that I have that are the most impactful for people are when we can have a good laugh together.
Yeah.
And I can make them feel seen in that kind of way, and I'm just like, I don't know, like, pursuing something that actually makes me feel really good and lets me express that part of myself, I think could be way more impactful than being like, all right, I'm just gonna keep doing this thing because it's what we've always done. And I think that there's a chance that I might not have realized that without kind of being there for like this whole year of two goofballs, you know?
Yeah, and that was something that Ethan was talking about a lot too with before Unus Annus started, when they were, you know, thinking about it, he felt really pigeonholed into just doing gaming content, even though he wanted to do more, and realized through doing Unus Annus that he like actually had all of these skills, and you know, and I think it was especially impactful for us specifically because, you know, at least the way that they portrayed themselves in the videos, you know, is a lot like how we are in real life. You know, I'm very much like Mark, and you're very much like Ethan, to the point that that's how I got you into watching Unus Annus, was sending you a video and being like, lol, that's you. Or like, you know, just being like, lol, this is us.
Right. Which, quick aside, was so funny because the same video that you sent that got me into it, that I feel like kind of got us watching it together and everything too, was Ethan Finally Becomes a Man. I think was the title. And it's where Mark and Ethan build Mark's dog Chica a doghouse, or try to. And it's really silly, and it's a lot of both of their personalities. And Nick sent it to me and was like, haha, this is us, you know? And I was just like, oh man, you know, I hadn't watched Markiplier in a really long time, and I didn't know who Ethan was at that point, but I was like, oh, this is really good. This is super, like, fun and different. And when the live stream was over, they hadn't technically deleted the channel yet. I think they cut the live stream before the channel was gone.
Well, no, so they deleted it at that time. But it takes time for YouTube to fucking wipe it all out.
Oh,
because
especially because there's so many videos, I bet.
Yeah, because it took a good couple of minutes after I deleted my video that I did about Unus Annus.
Right.
And that was just one 5-minute video. They had 369?
Yeah. Like
in total.
10 to 40-minute videos.
Yeah, so I
like,
can imagine.
I think a lot of people got to have like one last video before it was gone because people's autoplay would just start playing an Unus Annus video, and the one that we ended up fucking getting was the very first video that that you had sent me, and it felt really nice to be able to like see that before it was gone forever.
Yeah.
But anyway, what were you saying?
What was I saying?
Who knows? Our personalities.
Oh, because because Mark and Ethan, at least in the videos, are so much like how we are and how our dynamic is, you know, it felt like for the last year I was watching my future if I were to succeed.
That too, yeah.
And I think that it's so easy to think about your future if you were to fail. And it's so much more often you see people that are like you that went down the path that you did and they failed. And, you know, like...
You see, like, you know, luckily it's not as much of a thing anymore, but like thumbnails for like cringe compilations or whatever.
Yeah.
Like shit like that. Like that's not a thing that I would ever watch, but I'd see like criticisms of it and I'd see like thumbnails for it and you'd just be like, oh shit, that looks like me, you know?
Right. Or even, you know, in a really, really broad sense of the idea that you're a lot closer, you're a lot closer to having one bad day and becoming homeless than you are to having one good day and becoming rich and famous. And obviously they didn't become rich and famous overnight. They worked really, really hard and got really, really lucky. But I feel like it's so much easier to, I guess, take the pessimistic look and like be like, well, like these are people just like me, and you know, the whole like starving artist Rupert, hi. Okay. Like the whole starving artist ideal of, you know, going after your dreams and your passions and just it doesn't work out. And especially with my dad, who had multiple businesses throughout my lifetime, and it just, after a couple of years, he would move on because something would happen. I never knew what. But just being like, oh, okay, so cool, if I actually start a project, right, like go to do something, then it's just gonna fail. But seeing these people that I saw so much of myself in and so much of us in succeed every single day, even on days that were, you know, not as great content, or like they were clearly not feeling it but still doing it, it really, really helped me to feel like that was any sort of possibility, you know. And I don't at all want to come off sounding like, if you just work really, really hard, then good things will happen to you. Yeah. But just this,
there's a balance between being one of the people that talks about like, you know, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Right.
There's a difference between that and I feel like being, or I feel like there's somewhere between that and being totally fatalistic.
Right.
You know, there's a middle ground, I feel.
Right. Yeah, just kind of being able to have a little bit more of the mentality of not giving up before you've tried, or not giving up before you've given it your best shot, you know?
Yeah.
And like, just, I don't know, it was just really, really cool and inspiring to see people that I felt were just like me. Yeah. Just like, yeah, I mean, you know, Ethan has ADHD, and like, that's something that he talks about a lot, and I've always felt like my ADHD has held me back, and it has. It's a disability. Like, it's not
totally.
It's not fun, but you can use parts of it to your advantage.
Definitely.
And he has
so much.
And like, just being able to see that and be like, okay.
Right.
And, you know, getting that message every day and be like, okay, like that could be me. This feels relatively realistic, you know?
Exactly. And I feel like there's also, because, you know, it's one of those things where you see things out there that's like, hi, Rupert, that's like, oh, it's a superpower, it's really cool. And it's like hard to believe when you're struggling with, you know, like ADHD, and it feels more like a hindrance. But then watching videos and stuff and having ADHD and being able to identify like, oh, that's such an ADHD thing to do.
Right.
Like, I feel like it really lends a lot of credence to the neurodiversity thing, which is very much the like paradigm that I like to take. That it's just all different brain types, you know. And something that I really like about Ethan too is that I feel like he's also very vocal about, you know, you can take different paths to get places, and not everybody has to do like the same thing. Like, he didn't end up going to college, but like he does what he does, you know.
Right.
And just the way that like his brain works, like I'm pretty sure he found out he was dyslexic because of Unus Annus.
Yeah.
Which is wild to think about also. But like some of the bits that they have and do, like, you can like really see the like ADHD like creative energy coming through in like this really delightful kind of way. Like one of my favorite ones, I'm so glad they watched this video because it was towards the end, so I didn't expect them to, but I really did. I love that they did. Was Ethan kidnaps Mark.
That was so funny.
It's so funny because basically Ethan made like kind of an escape room type thing for Mark that was loosely based on a lot of the different videos that they'd done together, and he was on the other end of like a walkie-talkie, like hiding in an attic while Mark was like trying to figure this whole thing out, and in the middle he just starts like rhyming and just making shit up.
Yeah.
And just the way that the whole thing is designed, and like listening to him try and make up riddles in real time just feels like the most like wandering ADHD thing.
Yeah.
But it's so funny that I feel like even being somebody that couldn't pick up on that, you would still think it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
And like I feel like it really plays to a larger audience in a really good way, and it's just like, I don't know, it really feels like one of those representation things where you just like feel seen in a really cool way.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, oh, this is the thing that means that I can't do math good. It's just like, oh my gosh, this is so funny and like silly, and like, I don't know, just being able to do this like improv stuff, just, you know, it's very endearing.
Yeah.
There'd be a lot of times with Ethan where he'd be going off on something that didn't make any sense, and you would like turn to me and be like, this is what having a conversation with you feels like.
It is. Like, the people that listen to this podcast do not understand how much of you just fucking talking about nothing that I cut out.
Yeah.
It's...
God bless.
And it's like, it's kind of nice because it's less that I have to transcribe, but just...
And like in real life too, where it's like, in the podcast I'm holding back. I kind of have an idea of what I want to say a little bit.
Right.
But then like in the kitchen, like when the Adderall runs out...
Yeah, it's rough.
you
It's rough.
get the full thing. Get the full unfiltered...
Yeah.
thought stream.
But yeah, I just wanted to talk about Unus Annus today.
Yeah.
Because I'm sad.
I love those boys.
I'm sad, but I'm happy. And
Yeah.
like, that's what both of them were talking about last night. And I only got to watch Ethan's video today because Mark's came out right before we started recording, and I just couldn't watch
I
it.
haven't watched either of them because I know I'm gonna cry, and I only want to look like I'm crying. For audio listeners, I did some makeup so that it looks like I'm crying.
Yeah, it looks really fucking sick. But that's something that both of them, you know, were talking about last night, and Ethan was talking about in his video that he put out today, of just this, like, I'm sad that it's over, but I'm so happy that it happened, and I'm happy that it's over, and I'm happy that we got to be a part of it, and I'm happy that they did it. And so it's just this like really weird feeling that I haven't gotten before. And like, that's what Ethan said too, is just like, he's got this really like just this feeling that he hasn't felt before, and it's so hard to explain, and it's just so cool.
Yeah.
And I was just like, all right, well, this is what we're going to talk about today.
Exactly.
And I feel like we've talked it a little bit to death. So.
Which, one thing that I was really hoping for, really quick, that I was so hoping that they would do this. I was hoping that someone would put them in contact with Caitlin Doty. Dude, that would have been so cool.
Yeah,
because I know she lives in California too, and she's the lady who does Ask a Mortician.
Yeah.
Like, how fucking cool would that
would
have been
so
if they did like a
cool.
video on, like, I don't know, like stuff you can do with your body after you die that's like eco-friendly or whatever with her. Oh my god, I would have lost my shit.
That would have been
Such a missed opportunity. That's my one wish list Unus Annus video. But
yeah.
rip.
Rest in peace, Unus Annus. You've changed a lot of people's lives.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful that I was there. I'm so grateful that we were there.
Yeah.
Memento Mori.
Memento Mori.
Oh, also,
Yes?
we bought a van.
Oh my god, you're right.
See you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.